Yabba dabba doo, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
Folks, this month we're headed to the town of Bedrock to celebrate our favorite modern Stone Age family, the Flintstones. Join us as we follow the Flintstones to the movies and witness their prehistoric evolution through time. A journey full of spy thrills, crossovers, weddings, a lot of heart, and marriage counseling. So park yourself in the drive-in and order some oversized ribs as we start our Flintstones Film Fest.
Wilma!
And tonight's feature presentation is the Jetsons meet the Flintstones. All right. Okay, so Dragon, I assume you had some pretty big nostalgia for this. I'm pretty sure everyone who grew up in the era of Cartoon Network that you and I grew up in, this was one of the consummate movies that would run on the Cartoon Theater. Dragon, you know what line in this movie just really gave me like all the nostalgia?
What was the line?
The whole Wilma thing with Betty, like, I love your dress. Dragon, they would play that clip so much on Cartoon Network. Like, hey, Jetsons meet the Flintstones. Wilma's giving Betty a compliment.
Yeah, for me, it was the big kind of point of contact moment. Like the moment, like when Fred and George are peeking over like the the foliage and like that's the moment.
All right, so Theme Park Priest is in the comments. Happy to have you, Theme Park Priest. He says, one of the best Hannah Barbera movies ever.
Yeah, is it though?
Yeah, okay, Dragon, I feel like you and I are kind of on the same page with this.
Okay, so maybe should I start or would you like?
Go ahead and start it off, yeah, and I'll see if we're on the same page.
All right, so the long-awaited crossover of the two animated sitcom titans. This was a huge Hanna-Barbera event. The Space Age meets the Stone Age. Can't be any bigger. I mean, we're talking pre-MCU, pre-cinematic universes in general.
Basically, the Hanna-Barbera equivalent of Elvis meets the Beatles.
I mean, yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think the better equivalent, though, Tiki, the bear in mind, is that you had way before we had like the movie universes, and I mean, I know you had like the Universal horror stuff, but just tabling that for a moment, the main connective TV series kind of universes you had again what was on the small screen. You had like the Jeffersons verse. It was more so you had more like the Norman Lear verse, which would incorporate All in the Family, which spins off into the Jeffersons and so on and so on. All in your Golden Girls and so on and so forth. I mean, Maude particularly. Anywho, so again, it's kind of fitting that we had the animated equivalent here with kind of our shows that ironically are both in predominantly, I mean, not officially on paper, so they wouldn't get sued technically. Not that it always worked, but the shows that were rooted in two iconic sitcoms in their own right, with the Honeymooners and Dick Van Dyke. So here's the thing. So this did not hold up great, in my opinion.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I liked parts of it, but go ahead.
Well, let me tell you why. Very simply. So, Act 1 predominantly let the setup, like, okay, what are they doing before they meet up? That's slow. That's a lot of filler, and that's the stuff. Very much, I think much like the audience, we only cared about the crossover and the swap, like Acts 2 and 3.
When are we going to get to the fireworks factory?
Sure. So that's my point. Like we're waiting in the. That's what everyone's there for. That's what everyone's bought a ticket for, so to speak. And unfortunately, all that time, all that time, people have been wanting to see this. Unfortunately, I guess Hanna-Barbera has kind of been putting it off for so long. It's like, well, the moment's finally here. What do we got? Have we been working on this at all up to this point? It's kind of like they procrastinate on like the Act 1 of it all. It's like, well, we'll just slap it together. It just feels the plot wise, it's very slapped together. It feels like. I think they were really stymied by the fact they had to force the 90-minute runtime. If they didn't force that 90-minute runtime, I think things might have run a little smoother. Because I like how we start things off.
If it was like an even 75 minutes, let's say.
Sure, yeah, I think that would be a great deal, a great deal better. I'm not saying I don't know if it would have fixed everything, but it would have been a great start, And I mean, to its credit, even as it stands, To its credit, it is better than the other animated sitcom crossovers in recent years that I can think of. One infamous one springs to mind. I'm sure it does to you too.
And from the same time period, it's also leagues better than Cartoon All Stars to the rescue.
That's what I'm saying. So I mean, it's just a shame that when we did these crossovers back then, we didn't quite we sold the heck out of it, but we didn't really put a lot of substance into the event before the crossover, and that just kind of that's kind of how it was done though. And at the period this was made, we were still in the '80s. The '80s was the '90s is when cartoons really get sophisticated in storytelling, as we've kind of covered Odd Infinitum with something like a Batman the Animated Series, or other byproducts as well. So I wish this held up more, but the crossover.
I still think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I still think it's charming, and it's got all the good character work in it.
Yeah, that's my exactly. So I mean, I wish it held up more, but the crossover itself is undeniably so fun. So I'm having a great time with, again, when George Jetson, Fred Flintstone, their families are in frame together. That's amazing. And when they're swapped in their different time periods, this is what you came for, and I feel satiated with that. I just like when you watch the whole thing. I kind of wish I could hit the skip button.
So I think this movie has two core problems to it, and let me lay it out. And I think you're probably going to agree with me here.
Right, lay it out.
I think most importantly, I just think the plot is just weirdly cynical, with basically George and Fred kind of like doing the corporate ladder climbing.
Yeah.
So basically, what I have a problem with that, it's like and this is going to be my problem with the live action Flintstones movie as well, the original, is that I just think like that kind of stuff is just like, okay, like I do enough. There's enough workplace drama in my real life. I don't really need to see it in my cartoons, and I just think it puts the tone in sort of a weird place where it's like, okay, so Fred is basically like extorting Mr. Stone
Slate,
and
Mr. Slate.
Mr. Slate. I'm sorry. I don't know. I just feel like the characters kind of do some unsavory things, and I do think that one of the problems with this special is also kind of like one of its strengths is the fact that we do get a lot of time with both the Flintstones and the Jetsons, living in the respective environments. Like, the problem is we barely see the families interact. It's like I do like all this stuff with the Jetsons and Bedrock and vice versa. I love the idea of the Flintstones cars becoming like the thing that gets Mr. Spacely's company out of the gutter. Like, that's probably my favorite concept in the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, we just don't get the crossover. It's like we have like literally like a scene at a scene or two at the start and a scene or two at the end, and that comes after all that exposition. So it's a little rushed.
Yeah, and it's a shame because they had time to sit on this, man. I mean, the Flintstones. Here's the thing: the Flintstones were. Should I just jump into the background just to kind of?
Well, let me. I've got some comments here, really.
Sure, but yeah, let's read the comments first.
Okay, so that guy says the Jetsons are future boys with future objects. I like them.
I like them.
I don't know why that comment just made me chuckle. Future boys with future objects.
Yeah.
All right. Theme Park Priest. Maybe I'm remembering it a little too fondly. Yeah, Theme Park Priest. When's the last time you watched it? That's all I'm saying. Because I'm sure, Dragon, for you and I, it's been years and years and years, right?
I mean, the stuff I liked held up. Just the other stuff is kind of stuff I was a little fuzzy on. Like, oh boy, yeah, that. Forgot about that.
That guy says Cartoon All-Stars to the rescue was just annoying. How dare you lure me in with iconic cartoon fellas only to throw the anti-drug stuff at me?
Yeah.
If anything, I feel like Cartoon All-Stars contributed to me being a stoner. And then finally, that guy says, I have a soft spot for the first live-action Flintstones movie. I don't know why. It must be John Goodman. The first live-action Flintstones movie has a really fantastic cast. I'm just not crazy about the direction it goes in with screwing over Barney and then that whole drama. Like, I don't know. It's just not fun to me, the direction that movie goes.
Yeah, I got stories on what happened there, Tiki. We're not going to get
into
it right now.
Let's see. Yeah, Theme Park Priest says it's been 19 years, give or take 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, Theme Park Priest. I hate to say it, but maybe it just doesn't hold up as much as you remember it from 20 plus years ago.
All right, so little background. So not a whole lot here, but just kind of some kind of historical stuff. Just kind of when this thing came out. So this came out in '87. So we're right now the Flintstones were in the middle of a resurgence. During pretty much like not just Hanna Barbera, I think industry wide in the '80s, especially the late '80s, before the '90s hit. You had kind of this drought within the animation industry, kind of a creative drought, more accurately, where it's for example, this is when the Flintstones, the thing they were tuning out in terms of series was the Flintstones Kids, which I'm not knocking the Flintstones Kids, but I think you would agree that there was a thing going on around the time of
The
the Flintstones
Flintstones
Kids where
Kids
it was,
has nothing on Pup Named Scooby Doo.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But with Pup Named Scooby and Flintstones Kids and Tom and Jerry Kids, you see the pattern going on here. Like,
Tom
well,
and
we're out
Jerry
of
Kids
ideas.
might have been the weakest of the three, but it also might have had the best theme song of the three.
And that's what I'm.
Tom and Jerry Kids. All right.
Yes. Okay, but you see my point is that when in doubt, like, okay, well, we're out of ideas. What do we do? Let's make them kids and sell it. Okay,
Muppet
kids.
Babies as well.
That's yeah. I part of me likes to think Muppet Babies started it, but I don't know. But that's what I'm saying. So there's kind of a wave in kind of that late '80s period before the '90s hit of like, okay, well, let's just make them kids because we're out of ideas. And obviously, the best of these, Pup Named Scooby Doo, no question. So that's where the Flintstones is at that point in time. So the Flintstones were kind of hobbling by, and then the Jetsons, they were gone at this point in time. A lot of people forget this. So the Jetsons was extremely popular, but it ran half the time that the original Flintstone series did. So Jetsons was only 3 seasons. It hit the syndication numbers, it's a hair over it. It's 75 episodes. And then it just stopped. But it reran so often, people thought it was like still going on because it popped as much as the Flintstones did. So because of that, it was like, oh yeah, the Jetsons. That's everyone. Their mother knows Jetsons because of that jazz, the great theme song and the aesthetic. Like, okay, this is the futuristic version of the Flintstones. And essentially, I imagine what happened was this event was always kind of was always kind of pitched and it was always like, well, these two characters are always in the pop culture, we always it's always Flintstones and Jetsons, and obviously people have wondered like, oh, I mean, what if they met each other? And Hanna Barbera at this time had done a few crossovers, mainly like characters in other shows, like
Wacky Races, of course.
yeah, Wacky. I don't know if that. I think that happened already by this point in time. So yeah, it must have. So you had Wacky Races, and you had like Huckleberry Hound and Yogi Bear like crossing over. It's kind of what we had going on. It wasn't like a big event thing. It was just kind of Wacky Races. If that had happened at this point, that would have been the main.
Batman and Scooby Doo had probably happened by that point, I'm guessing.
No, that's right. That would have happened like before. Like, well, yeah. So point being, that's as much as you have. So the point being, so the crossovers have started to kind of take in vogue. Is that let's do the big one everyone's been asking for, and this kind of springboarded the Jetsons back to life. It kind of resuscitated. They're like, okay, let's bring the Jetsons back, and this, of course, this is why with the Jetsons gets the film in the '90s. Gets I think the theatrical film, if I recall. Yeah, so just they were just kind of basically hanging around for like that last hanging chat of like, hey, what's the one thing people want to see the Jetsons come back with? Well, want to see them meet the Flintstones. So that happened, and let's see the directors on this. He had Don Lusk, he had Ray Patterson. These guys, these were journeyman animators. These guys have worked on, have been animators for a lot of the Disney films. They had animated Don Lusk particularly animated. He was on Pinocchio, he was on Peter Pan, and also recently, because you brought up a number of times during the event, Trick or Treat. He was one of the Trick or Treat animators.
That's trippy that it goes back so far.
Yeah, and they also worked on some of the other Hanna-Barbera stuff as well.
I mean, Pinocchio is like one of the crown jewels of the animation industry, just at large.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah.
That's like working on the Mona Lisa.
I can't help but wonder if Hanna and Barbera were involved in this, perhaps that Act 1 might be tighter. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's not a guarantee, but, it's kind of a thought. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. Just basically, this movie is kind of what brought the Jetsons back to life for a while. And again, Jetsons not nowhere near as frequent as people imagine them to be. It's a misconception in the culture, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's break it down. Let's start. So some of that tee off because we have been bringing up kind of the Act 1 problems. One thing I do really like in Act 1, I do love how we start things up. I like how we see the morning routines being parallel with each other. Like, okay, just to show the similar DNA of our two sitcom characters here, of our patriarchs with George Jetson, Fred Flintstone. They have.
I like the opening stuff for sure. I think that works well. I think when it immediately kind of starts to go off the rails is, the, oh no, there's drama at work and we have to have like some sort of sketchy cover up going on.
Right. Okay. So, do you want to start with the sketchy plot or the non-sketchy plot?
I wouldn't just get into the sketchy plot because I think that's what kind of tanks the movie a little bit.
Okay, so George then. So George Jetson, he's going to work, and there is we kind of I wouldn't have expected corporate espionage to really be a Jetson story move. I got to be honest, I wouldn't have really imagined like there's a leak going on at the Spacely Sprockets, and I love if you recall, folks, George Jetson's job always just entertains me to knowing because he just has to go to work and push a button. That's all he has to do. Doesn't do anything else. He has to go there, get yelled at the boss, and push the button. And he goes to work on a conveyor belt. So he doesn't. It's even less. He has to do. All he's got to do is push a button. Anyway, so yeah, I forget if this character was a fixture in the Jetsons or not, because Jetsons again only ran for so long. Rudy, I loved Rudy, man.
Yeah, I guess my issue here is that I just feel like there's like a lot of morally ambiguous stuff going on with like Rudy hiding his true intentions from George, and then George getting caught up in the middle of it, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, this isn't fun. This isn't a cartoon I want to watch. This just reminds me of my own work drama.
I do want to hit though. I love it when George gets stern with his buddy because he feels so betrayed. I mean, there is that drama I do like. Just like Rudy gives him a chance. Like, Rudy, look me in the eye. Tell me what's going on. And I like that Rosie does bring Rudy back. That gives him kind of a redemption.
Okay, can I just say Rosie is kind of like the MVP of the Jetson side of things?
Well, she always has been. Movie. Yes, of course she is.
I mean, I don't know. I forgot just how much I appreciate Rosie.
Yeah, Rosie is she's always the MVP, man.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Again, she says she's chewing Rudy out for this corporate espionage. Like, you also know numbers, but you also know heart because you care for Mr. J. Beautiful. So yeah, and so also just that. Just to talk about our bosses here for a second. So, in this crossover, really get kind of like a great point of comparison between Mr. Spacely and Mr. Slate. Now, Tiki, I love Mr. Slate so much. I've always loved Mr. Slate.
Okay. Like, this is something you can kind of shine a light on for me, because to me, Mr. Spacely and Mr. Slate, like, as a kid, and I guess I just didn't have time to kind of like readjust my expectations, but as a kid, I always viewed them as essentially the same character.
Oh, no, my friend. Very different. Oddly, though, fun fact, originally, this is going like deep cuts Flintstones on you. Originally, apparently, I think it was like the second season of the Flintstones when they showed Fred's boss, and originally he looked like a descendant, like a prehistoric descendant of Mr. Spacely, because this is like right before Jetsons happened. Uh-huh. So they basically they decided to throw that design out, and then they reused it because Hannah Barbera is always about using every part of the buffalo in the other shows. So they basically reused that design for Mr. Spacely, kind of the Napoleonic sort of look there. But anyway,
so tell me what you love about Mr. Slate, because honestly, this is I did not know that you were such a big Mr. Slate fan, and I've never really found the character all that endearing. So
I mean, you'll see him
is it kind of like a Principal Prickly sort of situation where it's like just a sympathetic authority figure?
Little bit. I mean, if you want to use that comparison, I think that'd be pretty apt. He's just here's the thing. Even just looking here, I think my heart really goes for Mr. Slate in the one of the other ones we're talking about in our lineup here. We'll get there, but I've always found Mr. Slate, he's an average boss. He's just right now this movie. All he's asking,
like Mr. Spacely, is more of the kind of the stereotypical like bad boss, right?
Yeah, he's basically the best comparison I have for Mr. Spacely. He's like Louis De Palma from Taxi meets J. Jonah Jameson.
I can totally see that.
And literally, like with the height and everything, it's exactly like that. That's it. It's Louis De Palma meets J. Jonah Jameson. in that it's Mel Blanc in a wonderful performance as Mr. Spacely, but just a little
Right,
blowhard
right.
jerk who he literally just always is. I think we exaggerate maybe a little too much here. Of like, man, he's just really dressing down George and really just
I mean,
yelling
that's the
at him,
thing.
and he's
Like with the bosses, it just I don't know. It just adds like a level of it. I think that's one of the things that really kind of like. And you know what? I mean, I'm sorry, we're kind of going on a conversation cul-de-sac here with the Mr. Spacely versus Mr. Slate thing. But I feel like I'm kind of having an epiphany here of maybe that's one of the big reasons why I always really preferred the Flintstones to the Jetsons. I always thought as a kid it was just because I preferred like the dinosaurs and the prehistoric vibes over the space vibes. But really, it might be the type of humor because like Mr. Spacely, he's a dick. And I
yes,
think as a kid, I was just really turned off by that. And a lot of humor has to do with like, kind of like the idea that in the future, going to work is going to be just as much of a day-to-day grind.
it's just going to be streamlined where you just push a button. So it's the work itself is not hard, but the social workplace interactions are going to be like 10 times as more difficult.
Right, right.
But
Okay, we need to, I'm sorry, I got to point out some comments here. Dragon, really quick.
All right.
That guy says we need to bring back the babies trope and do a baby samurai.
Oh, God.
Aku is just like he's just like the kind of like the tame bully character, like the very light bully, like Angelica style.
Basically, Rugrats with blades and murder. Yeah.
Oh God, can you imagine how adorable baby Aki would be?
God.
All right. Anyways, Theme Park Priest says Wacky Racers was late 60s, Batman and Scooby mid 70s. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I knew the Batman Scooby one. I forgot about Wacky Racers.
Theme Park Priest says I would be curious to crown a best Hannah Barbera movie. I would as well. Theme Park Priest. I mean, I think by the end of this month we'll be able to definitively crown a best Flintstones movie.
Oh yeah.
But best Hanna-Barbera movie overall, especially if you're looking at it like from the lens of like the theatrical Hanna-Barbera movies of like the 70s and 80s, I would be interested to go through that too. Right. That guy says I just want to cross over between Yogi Bear and Winnie the Pooh. I don't know. I don't know how well that would work.
I mean, is it really much real estate to explore there?
That's what I'm saying. Like, oh, I'm going to steal your honey pots.
That's what I'm saying. So steal his honey. Why, Yogi? Why'd you steal the bear's honey? It's always got.
Can I just say, like, I mean, I feel like a lot, like Theme Park Priest, I think knows this about me, but I am not a Yogi Bear fan.
Really?
I just think he's a character that there's just nothing you can do with him. It's like, all right, he's stealing the picnic baskets. Like, that's literally like the one gag. I don't know.
Yeah, but he's so sharply dressed, though.
All right. That guy says there's a place for morally ambiguous cartoon characters, but I don't think that place is Flintstones. Yeah, I kind of agree. And then you mentioned it you mentioned a taxi driver character. I must mention Andy Kaufman. It's a must.
Yes, of course, Latka from Taxi, of course.
All right.
So, so Mr. Slade. By the way, there's kind of a goof they made here. I don't know if it's necessarily there's kind of an odd continuity error where I think either they changed it from what originally was. We have a first name on Mr. Slate here, but it changes. I prefer the second name they give him. Here they call him Nate Slate.
I noticed that. That did sound off.
Now, later, the name I prefer is George Slate.
Uh-huh.
But, anyway.
I don't like that Nate Slate, like, almost sounds like an 80s hip-hop artist or something.
God, anyway. But here's the thing. So, just looking at this movie, for example, just Mr. Slate, he's very reasonable when he's asking for Fred here. Of like, hey, do your job, stay here at night, okay? It's just man the crane, and it's not like Fred told him.
That's one problem I had. Like with this, it's like I feel like it's kind of like, okay. I think I figured out my problem with this movie now. Here,
okay, what is it?
On one side of things, you have Mr. Spacely, who's just being like a total dick.
Yes.
And then on the other side of things, you have Fred, who's just being totally just like a selfish asshole and not listening to his boss, who's asking a very reasonable thing and going about this elaborate, stupid costume prank that's going to put Barney in a humiliating situation.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just feel like both of the stories just kind of have this weird sort of like negative edge to them right away.
And I think the reason for that is, again, maybe because it's been a little bit of time. And again, yeah, remember, right now they've been primarily dealing with like Flintstone kids, and I don't know, I can't recall if they also leaned into this trait. But sometimes Fred Flintstone, when not reined into like what he was in the original show, he can be, he can kind of lean into a negative trait, negative personality traits. He's very, he's very, he can get
Fred
greedy, he can
Flintstone
get
is a hard
egomaniac.
character to write well. He is.
Exactly, and again, there's a sweet spot to hit, of course, and of course,
Uh-huh.
he does have to stumble, otherwise there's no learning curve with Fred Flintstone. You need the learning curve, so obviously there's a line to walk, and here we did lean a little bit into the negative up front, and the fact he's like not telling his wife what's going on. Where this is nowhere near like the man called Flint, the man called Flintstone. We're not doing that. It's not really getting to like that was like that's the blue meth kind of like like perfected, like that's how
But
you
by
do
the
Fred
same
Flintstone.
token, it's going to be nowhere near the assholishness that we get from something like On the Rocks.
Yes, which will. That's what I'm saying. This is kind of like in the middle there, where
I
again
am
that.
fully prepared for that.
So that's going to be this fully exaggerated, Tiki. That's
Right,
that's
right.
that's what On the Rocks is going to be. But regardless, um, yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Mr. Slate just being really reasonable in what he's asking here. Also, I think the bit that sums up why I love Mr. Slate is when he's basically chewing out Flintstone, and when he brings in George Jetson, his cousin, he says, "Oh, here's my cousin. He can help you out during the picnic," and just keeps saying, "This streaming, no offense, sir." He adds the "no offense, sir." He's really respectful. I love that Mr. Slate. He's just, again, he gives Fred the business when he brings it on himself. And I don't know. My heart goes out to Mr. Slate. I like his design. I always love the voice on him. I have a great fondness for this character.
All right, what's next?
Okay, so we also have like just with the corporate thing, we have like the rivals to our bosses, which we have Cogs, the guy from Cogswell Cogs. I know his last. I don't think his last name's Cogs. It's something Cogswell. But the point being is, every time I think of Cogswell, I always think of this movie, which is always them phrasing, Spacely Sprockets and Cogswell Cogs. So Cogswell Cogs, tell me this. I have a fun like fan theory, if you will.
Okay.
I think Cogswell is a descendant of Mr. Slade.
Ooh, yeah, that's interesting.
Because they look very similar.
Uh-huh. They do.
And of course, Cogs will just be in the really just even kind of worse, like again the espionage, the guy
Oh, could I
stealing
just say
secrets
these
and everything.
business partners, I think, just kind of like pad out the movie when we already have like a pretty busy cast going on?
Oh, of course, and Turk Tarpit, I don't give a crap about Turk Tarpit because
Yeah,
he's not really in the show at all, from what I remember. Like he put him in there. Okay, well, we need to give this on top of it. With the Flintstones plot line, unfortunately, was added like obstacles that really don't matter at all. We're okay. Fred and Barney have lost their jobs. So basically, just to talk about the stakes for a moment here. So I think, and we're going to see this later in one of the other things we're going to cover here. So Fred losing his job is like the biggest stakes you could do, for one of the biggest stakes you can give the Flintstones. Okay, Fred's every time we do the Flintstones opening, he slides down that dinosaur. So taking that away from him is very important. Okay, so I think the hat trick of Fred Flintstone is fired can only be pulled so many times. And in the movies, from what I recall, we've done it twice. And I think twice is too many. I think we should have limited it to once, but they didn't know they were going to use it in the one later. So I think that one's more of just like there's no way
I
around
feel
that.
like
But
every movie has it like somewhere.
well, I mean, him specifically getting fired has not happened. Only it's like there's maybe it's like a fear that he's going to get fired, but he never
Uh-huh.
does until this movie, and then one of the other movies we're going to cover. And this movie, I don't think it belonged in this movie at all. Like, guys, don't, because we only did it here just to give Fred something to worry about through the movie that's going to get wrapped up like a really nice bow on top at
And
the
again,
very
it's like
end.
we have so much other stuff, like with the Jetsons meet the Flintstones concept, it just feels like unnecessary tension.
And the only reason it's in here is so we can have the company picnic thing, so Fred can unsuccessfully get his job back, which again, unsuccessfully being the
That
operative
scene is
word.
like my least favorite scene in the movie, honestly.
And again, it's like it's only there to show the plot
I mean,
reason
I
it's
know it's
there.
got some fun gadget stuff and that's cool,
Yeah.
but like I just felt like that scene just dragged because it's like it's not going to work.
Yeah,
So inherently it's pretty much useless to the plot. It drags on as far as pacing goes.
And it's only there. It's only there just to show so George can become a celebrity when he's trapped there later. So okay, they
Mhm.
all saw what he could do. So that's really the only reason it's there. And that's what I'm saying, Tiki. It just feels all of that. It's the whole the plot lines are just they're nothing's really useful is coming from them at all. I mean, the only thing we're getting out of them in any positive lining here is that I like the morals that we explore here. I don't like the stories that give us these morals, but the morals of like you shouldn't fear the unknown, and you greet those that are different from us in regards to like the crossover. Okay, well the Flintstones and the Jetsons get along famously, which is great.
Mhm.
And you have like don't there's a downside to success, which is also good with the whole swapping thing that's going on there. There's a downside to money and power that it isn't everything. There's a good moral there.
Yeah, I do like the plot line of George kind of becoming like this idiot savant by by like reframing technology in the past. Like that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Our swap stuff is good. Then, of course, you have like Fred learning through the hard way through gambling, to quit while you're ahead.
Mhm.
All right, so here's something just because we covered the man called Flintstone last time, we should talk about this. So we have the traditional vacation plot line for the Flintstones here.
That just totally just gets like it's like teased throughout the episode, and we never really actually take any time to be like, all right, we're on vacation. Let's do some sightseeing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they
It's
kind
like
of
in a couple points, it's like Fred acknowledges, like, we're on vacation, Wilma. We're in the future.
exactly. That's about it.
Right.
But no, what I'm saying is, though, is like we kind of saw traditionally be Fred wants to cheap out on the vacation, and then the shenanigans happen. Versus Man Who Called Flintstone, we're like, hey, I got the cash this time. Let's go on a vacation. Let's go to Italy. Let's go to Rome. Let's
Yeah,
go
the
to
whole vacation thing was like, I mean, I don't know. It was rough just seeing the whole like like I was kind of like on the side of the women when they pull up to that like really crappy beach. I'm like, really, Fred? That's the best you can do?
yeah. Shame. Which is odd, just given they were really comfy with camping, and at the end of that movie, at the end of the Man
Mhm.
Called Flintstone. So, yeah, again, it's kind of odd how things work. And of course, during again Fred's gambling habits here, he flies too close to the sun. He loses after he was doing so well, and he had like kind of almost like an Abbott and Costello kind of gambit kind of worked up here with him and Barney's, with the gambling. It's obviously
Aces over kings, man. Brutal.
yeah, oh yeah, and of course like the whole giggle, giggle and cough kind of call signs, which is gonna get all sorts out of whack when a spider crawls up Barney's
I
leg.
felt so bad for Barney this scene. I really did.
You got to admit though, I know that the plot line's not great. You got to admit though, it is so funny hearing Mr. Slice. Barney Rubble is your girlfriend.
God.
It's just really funny because for a moment it seems like okay, maybe he hasn't figured it out entirely.
I ship Fred and Barney.
No. I think he's thinking this Texas oil man is dating Barney Rubble.
Right.
That's what it feels
Yeah,
like to me.
right.
Like, but then obviously, then he unmasked Fred. He's not doing it. He gets it. He's good.
Oh,
All right, let's see. So let's talk about what gets us from point A to point B. Back to the Jetsons here. So Elroy, the little boy genius, the little wonderkin, he built a
do
time
you
machine.
know who I am? I'm Elroy Jetson.
God, that's funny.
Take me to Astro's grave.
Oh God. Uh, all right. And the
Yeah,
reason.
Elroy Jetson has a time machine that's less reliable than Mario's time machine.
Wait, Mario had a time machine?
Yes, it was a really crappy edutainment game.
Oh.
But anyways.
Anyway. So I mean,
So
look.
this time machine, like I don't know, like I think it works. Like it's about the most basic plot device that you could possibly do for a Jetsons meet the
I
Flintstones crossover.
I have no problem with Elroy building a time machine. I'm going to tell you why.
Because Elroy's kind of like he's like a proto Jimmy Neutron. I get that.
Yeah, I mean, it's also I have like a lot of nostalgia just for the Fantastic World of Hanna Barbera ride, which I know
Oh
it's not
yeah,
exactly.
for sure.
I don't know why. Look, I know it's not the same thing at all because like I really didn't like build any technology in that ride, but it's just like I always just have a built-in fondness for Elroy Jetson, and that I have so much love for that attraction. Pretty much all the permutations. Unfortunately, I've not been able to ride the last two permutations of it, but still, like that Nicktoon Blast.
I mean, even with Minions Mayhem, I think that ride just has such a heartwarming ending that I give it a lot of like a lot of a pass.
That's a thing. Do you know if that ride's still around, or have they officially
Minions
given
Mayhem is still around.
Okay, good. At least they haven't.
Yeah.
Okay, well, all right, that's good news.
I don't think Minion Mayhem is going away anytime soon. It's
I could have
consistently one
sworn
of the
like
more popular in the park.
I thought they were going to change it over to the Secret Life of Pets thing or something.
Oh no. The Secret Life of Pets. I mean, at least in Hollywood, that went into a whole other building. I don't know what they. I imagine if they do Secret Life of Pets in Florida, it'd probably go into the Shrek 4D building, maybe.
Well, I certainly hope that's the case because it's one of these. If I ever to go back, I would like because I was in the building before the ride was there. I want to know how it was because I love all the previous permutations of ride that have been there. Anyway, sorry. Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera is quite lovely. Regardless, yeah. So it's I just love just in general too with the Jetsons too. Just around this point in time, I love I love how swell a guy George Jetson is. Again, he exudes the Dick Van Dyke kind of leading sitcom patriarch kind of quality. Like good old George Jetson. He's a good dad, and he's just like
I feel like George Jetson might be a better main character than Fred. I think the problem is I don't necessarily think the supporting cast is as strong.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Fred is a package deal with Barney. Because of that, Fred is the stronger character. But you're not wrong, though. I think George Jetson is. I think he's just on his face. He's always likable, and there's kind of a lovely quality to him. I mean, outside of pairing him with Astro and Elroy at times, I mean, he doesn't really. He's the punchline constantly. Where Fred kind of built in a story. Where Fred's got a crazy Ralph Cramden idea in the Stone Age.
Right.
Yeah, so again, it's kind of you're right though. I think the supporting cast does kind of make or break, and I think there's a reason we have more Flintstones properties than we do Jetsons. Outside of the fact that the Jetsons are hard to do in live action.
Yeah, I'm surprised that movie never came into fruition.
But possibly for the best, though. I mean, let's be honest.
Oh yeah.
Anywho, but yeah, so point being, so Elroy, boy genius, on the cusp, we built a time machine, which again, I like. It makes sense. How the heck do you cross these two properties? Well, it has to be a time machine. Well, where else can you get the time machine from the future? He was going to build it. Well, to tie into the Jetsons. If it's not Spacely, it's got to be Elroy. So it makes sense. Here are the supporting characters that do work though, because we talked already. We sang the praises of Rosie. But Henry, Orbit, and Mac, I love essentially the maintenance crew of the building, the landlord of the Jetsons, the kind of sky apartment. Yeah, Henry Orbit. I love that Henry Orbit is basically like an old man version of Elroy. He's like the elder Elroy in a sense because I'm pretty sure the same actor does that voice. I don't know for a fact or not, but and I love how
he's pretty much just like the machine guy.
He's also. Yeah, and he's the handyman. I think he's like the landlord of the building. He's definitely doing the repairs, and also I think he's like Elroy's mentor as well because he probably helps him build stuff and everything. Also, a Mac. I love that Mac. I completely forgot about this. Rosie the Robot's boyfriend, I think.
Yeah.
And there's a charming thing to this Mac here. I love that when Mr. Spacely's getting uppity.
The one side character I remember that I don't care for, and I think this came like way later, was like the. The
little fuzzy jumping one, right?
Yeah. I
didn't like that either.
Yeah. Oh God. I mean, honestly, let's just call her the little fuzzy jumping one. Worst character than Scrappy Doo, hands down.
I mean, the difference is Scrappy talked a lot, though.
But Scrappy was very proactive, though.
I mean, look, I don't hate Scrappy like everyone else does.
All right, let's not get into a Scrappy debate. I'm a Scrappy fan, personally.
That's what I'm saying. Look, I got nothing against Scrappy, but I do see the point of a bit much at times, yeah. Anyway, point being, I think Scrappy has more stay power than the other one, for sure. And just the fact that we can't name the other one, like, off the top of our heads, I think it kind of speaks
exactly.
Anywho, but yeah, I love Mac's design though. I love like the very found kind of like he's got like a file cabinet, he's got like the toolbox and the belt and everything. Is the fact that he's very protective of Rosie when like Barney's like knocking on the chassis. He's like, hey, he's like bonks Barney on the head. It's great. All right, but yeah, so all that said, so we have our means of transportation here. So we crash the vacation of the Flintstones, and we have our big money shot of the first contact moment of Fred and George Jetson like peeking over, and then Dino and Astro very similarly. They're freaking out. So, and again, this brings it back to the moral, Tiki, which I really do like, which is don't fear the unknown, embrace it. It's with one moment, Tiki, with one moment, the two franchises intersect beautifully. They kind of have the olive branch. Yabba dabba, friend. Hooba dooba, friend.
Yeah. And then like I said, Dragon, I really do like it was in a lot of commercials, but I really do like Wilma's very proactive. Like, I like your dress. Just because,
Thank
like,
you.
yeah, of course, if there's one thing that people like, that's like a universal language, it would be fashion.
Yeah.
So I did, I honestly, like, this is one of the better Wilma roles, I think.
I mean, to be fair, Wilma's. I'm trying to think. I don't think Wilma's really been tremendously out of character at times. I think she's usually pretty on the ball. I don't
I'm
know.
just saying, like, she doesn't have a ton to do, but I feel like she does have a few proactive moments here.
Now that is true. She does kind of like go over there. Like, she's kind of she does help with the olive branch majorly there. Let's see. So, also again, the whole Hooba Dooba thing. I completely forgot the Jetsons had the Hooba Dooba thing until I rewatched this. Like, oh yeah, they do. And again, that's like that's proof in the pudding. There's always like that connective. Like, yeah, maybe in the future we change up Yabba Dabba. That's very nice. So, I think I just revel in seeing them all cordial and getting along. Which again, I was a little worried when I went back because it's been so long. Oh god, is there going to be like a period where Fred's going to be jealous of George Jetson or something? Like, is something like that going to happen? Or no, they get along famously. They're again they're distant cousins, one could say. I love Fred playing host to the stranded Jetsons. It's a lot of fun. Like the Expando bag and the anti gravity belt. They're commingling with gadgets and showing it to their cave buddies.
Yeah, we already talked about the sporting event, whatever. I thought that
Yeah,
was a little.
the Slate Rock Gravel annual picnic. Yeah,
Yeah, I thought that was a little long in the tooth, but yeah, I would say overall, I did very much enjoy the Fred playing host and everything like that, and how well everyone gets along.
Oh, here's something I forgot. Two things we should mention.
Yes,
Okay, so one, let me get your thoughts on this. No Pebbles and Bam Bam here.
I mean, I think it works for the best. I don't really think you need Pebbles and Bam Bam when you've got the whole Jetsons crew.
Yeah, it's true. Of course, the reason we don't have Pebbles and Bam Bam so you could have like the money shot of like Rosa the robot when they come back. Like, oh, what happened to you? Like thinking like that, thinking that Elroy and Judy have grown up into Barney and Betty Rubble.
Right, right.
But yeah, speaking of that, yeah, Betty, I think her voice was all wrong here. Do you have that?
Yeah, a little bit.
It
I don't
sounded
know,
really
like
off to me.
voice actors being off don't really bother me unless it's a character that I'm like super emotionally invested in. But
I'm just saying, going from like Man Called Flintstones. I know there's obviously a time gap in there, and that's why we have a different voice actors. I'm sure it's just I don't know. It's kind of like stuck out to me. Man, why is Betty sound kind of off here?
uh
Anyway, also this happened way earlier. This dimension goes. Well, I'm thinking like there's a negative thing. I think again, we exaggeration with something we did here is to kind of because it's probably been a while for the proper, is just getting kind of done proper again. I think Fred eating the ukulele at the breakfast table was a bit much. I think we dumped him down so a little too much there.
yeah, just a little bit.
It's like I think he knows
I
what.
feel like that was kind of like just a necessity of like, okay, we have to have like some caveman jokes with Fred, even though I feel like the joke with the Flintstones in general is that even though they're cavemen, they're like the theme says, they're the modern Stone Age family.
Yeah,
So
like they know what these things are. They're not like savages.
exactly,
They'll make a
exactly
joke about. They might make a joke about the evolution from savagery, perhaps, but that's about it.
uh-huh.
All right, so let's talk about the big swap, man. Let's talk about like the big ambitious idea of like, okay, we're gonna let them live in each other's camp here for a while.
And I do really like this idea. I just wish that we had a little bit more crossover between the two of them in the movie, but I still think it works quite well.
And the wrong family goes back to the future. So rarely can we use that joke, right?
And honestly, I think the Jetson stuff works a lot better than the Flintstone stuff, just because I feel like Bedrock is a way better setting.
Well, yeah, because the
Like
reductive thing about
with the future, it's like all you really have is like the like the sleek windows, and like I don't know. I just don't think there's as much you can do.
we never see the ground in the Jetsons. It's
Right,
kind of limiting.
exactly,
It's like a little
exactly,
too.
yeah.
The Jetsons is a little. It's kind of like freedom versus okay. The Flintstones is our world, just kind of prehistoric. So that's the easy way of looking at it. So there was an end to things on the Flintstone, and ends are easier playgrounds to work in, where you have the Jetsons, which is okay. There can be anything in the future, and there's always like these little
Uh-huh.
domes on spires where everything is. So you need whatever you need for a story. It's there. It's a little too freeing. It's a little too vague. It's a little too well. What do we do? I imagine that's why the Jetsons did not go on for more seasons as well. Like it's like how many things can we add here if we can't just do
Right,
like we,
right.
we got to come up with new things. This is hard. And we have vegetable oil cars. This is about as much as we can do.
So
We
I
add
mean,
the
in
little
that
floppy
respect, I
guy.
really do think that the Jetsons just get the lion's share of interesting storylines. I love Judy's storyline. I always think it's really interesting that Judy Jetson at the time was kind of like, they were really pushing for Judy Jetson, a cartoon character, to be like the it girl of the '80s in a
Which I
certain
think just
respect.
just was a dumpster fire. In my opinion. This
Yeah,
never worked.
yeah.
It's like,
But I
guys, we
still
can, we
think
can
it's
have
culturally
Josie and the
fascinating, and I
Pussycats.
think that in this movie they're very much kind of like in that, in that mindset. And I can't remember the dude's name for the life of me, but I thought the cheesy freaking like
Iggy,
caveman rock star was a lot of fun.
Iggy, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
It's Iggy Rock, if I'm a betting man.
That sounds about right. Iggy
But
Rock.
well, I'm making up the rock part. I'm just
No,
assuming
I
Iggy
honestly
Rock.
think you might be right.
But yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Hannah Barbera, they have Josie and the Pussycats. You got Jabberjaw. You have like all sorts. And really, you're gonna try to sell Judy Jetson as like the next rock sensation, like the it girl. I don't know. It's never I swear to you, I was like that was one of the reasons I think the Flintstones will always top the Jetsons to me. Is you had like Judy was a character that I'm not going to say like she made the show worse, but I'm going to say she was kind of like a dent in the armor. It was like, and then there's the
I
teenage
mean,
daughter,
here's the
which
thing. I actually appreciate it just because it's such a product of its time.
yeah,
I
again, they're
don't know.
trying to
I
go
don't
for
mind
mass
it.
audience. They're trying to breach a few audiences. The teen audience, they had the kid with Elroy and pretty much everything on the show. And the difference is the Flintstones was bold enough to we're going to do something that both the parents and the kids could possibly laugh at because they'll laugh at the satire. Of, okay, well, it's our world, but it's then again, it's like guys with jobs, which so rarely do you have in cartoons in the '60s. You don't really have
Right.
that until you don't have that on the regular until SpongeBob.
Yeah.
So, it was a big deal. So here's what I love about the Jetsons and Bedrock Teague. I don't know if you have this. Um, it kind of it was really trippy seeing how fragile Bedrock's economy really is.
No, I mean that's the thing. That is kind of like the adult humor in this movie that I did kind of latch onto is just how much George was like just able to completely like upend the economy. Yeah.
This is like the slice of life problems the Jetsons never had, which again, like the Flintstones gives you this sort of thing to look at.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I just love that the Jetsons essentially with their fame and notoriety, they basically were paid a majority of the bedrock economy, which means they now pretty much own everything. He's made a partner of Slate and
And I
Gravel,
just
and
love that idea. I just love that idea of just, like I said, it's like super retro, it's like hyper retro.
yeah, and like all not just him, all the family. Like, like let's see, a record store, and Jane owns the Jane owns like a shopping mall.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But here's the thing, I do love
But then it's like they just kind of like get caught up and like, oh my god, it's too much to manage, man.
I like that it didn't corrupt them. I think that was a very important trait that we respected with the Jetsons. The Jetsons
I
are
feel
humble
like if
people.
anything, Fred gets more corrupted in this movie.
Oh, of course. I mean, though, to be fair, though, Fred, he doesn't have the he's about to be corrupt, but then Barney kind of haplessly just kind of takes that. Where basically he's like offered from Cogs, so like, hey, be my caveman spokesman. Basically steals all Space's thunder. It's
Dragon,
like
is
Fred.
there a fallout with Barney in every one of these movies? Because so far it's been 2 for 2.
Okay, hold on. There's one
I
there.
obviously know there's one in the live action Flintstones. That's pretty much like the
That's what I'm saying.
crux
Is
of
there
the
one in
plot.
Viva Rock Vegas though?
I want to say so. I want to say so.
I don't think there is, but you might be right. You're more familiar with that one than I am, so I don't. I don't know. Well, if that's the case, then I believe pretty much. I mean, there's. I
That's
think there's
funny.
only one. There's one movie that I can say definitively we're not covering that it does that doesn't happen.
Uh-huh.
Holly Rock Bye Bye.
But I Yabba Dabba Doo has one.
Yes.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like that's kind of like an easy source of drama to go back on the well on of like, oh no, his friend, like it's almost kind of like the Disney implied death, right? Like,
Well,
oh,
yeah,
is
there
Fred
are.
and Barney's friendship really over this time? Oh no.
Tiki again. The mantra of Hanna Barbera is pretty much eat every part. We use every part of the buffalo. That they recycle a lot, but much like the backgrounds for Scooby Doo, they do recycle a lot. And you think you'll notice that we do have recurring trends in the Flintstones movies where we have like another vacation plot line at the top to get things going, and
Of
we're gonna
course,
have
yeah.
the Barney and Rubble.
Hey, I have no problem with Hanna Barbera vacation plot lines though.
Yeah,
Like a lot of the best Scooby Doo movies that
of
started with
course.
vacation plot lines.
We have the Fred and Barney low of lows, over the Fruity Pebbles, as John
Right,
Kelly's.
right.
Oh, there's fallout with Barney in every Fruity Pebbles commercial. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. By the way, welcome, John Kelly. I know that we were kind of wrapped up in conversation. All right,
What?
let's. I was just shouting out John Kelly because we were wrapped up in
Uh-huh.
conversation. We didn't shout him out, but when he showed up, so.
Yeah, he
Anyway,
says there's fallout with Barney in every Fruity Pebbles commercial. Yeah, that's probably where all the fallout came from, John Kelling. That's probably the root of their relationship issues.
the Flintstones. They got here's what they got going for them. They got cereals and multivitamins. I've had those multivitamins when I was a kid, and
I actually really liked the vitamins when I was a kid.
I mean, they were insane. It was an insanely good idea, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Plus, you could pick which Flintstones character you got too with the different flavors.
Exactly. No, that was the gimmick, man. Is the fact that they were like, they were not only shaped like the characters, but like they had like a detailed like engraving of the
I
characters.
know. I forget if they had. I assume they had. I know they had Fred. They had Dino.
Fred, Barney, Dino, Wilma. I'm assuming Pebbles and Bam Bam as well.
I know they had Pebbles, but that's the thing. I don't know if Bam Bam and Betty made the cut.
Oh, I don't know if Betty.
That's the
I
thing.
want to say Betty made the cut just because I remember there being a blue one.
See, I don't know if I have the blue ones.
Oh man, okay, we're going down a rabbit hole
Okay.
here.
Or anyway, sorry, getting back on point.
Kids.
Anyway.
And we are young and growing.
Oh, by the way, because you brought up Cartoon All Stars earlier,
Yes.
the Flintstones kids, they had an anti-drug episode, right?
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Anyway, but my point is, yeah. So I like that the Jetsons, they
That's
had this.
right, Fred. You shouldn't smoke Winston cigarettes.
Okay.
You gotta kick the habit, Fred.
All right.
But Barney, I love smoking my Winstons. All right,
It's
I'm
Winstones.
sorry.
You should say.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, my point is, again, it's like the Jetsons. You were very humble.
Really go for a Winston.
Okay, do you mind?
Right about
Come on.
now. I'm done. I'm sorry. I'm done.
Anyway, for the fifth time.
All right.
I like the humbleness of the Jetsons, where again they are, they're non-corrupted by this, and it's like, there's like, okay, yeah, this is too much success for us. George is a simple guy, simple taste. He just gives it all back, puts it back into the community. It's it's nice. Let's see. Of course, with the Fred versus Barney thing, too, we kind of mentioned the rift that formed in this movie. I just love just the. I just love like the dueling caveman spokesman kind of plot that's going on there, and the fact that it was warranted with Spacely's failed nostalgia promotions now actually have some teeth with the caveman angle, the ultimate form of nostalgia.
Right.
So I think the most prickish thing Spacely did in the whole movie was when he just invaded the Jetsons' home looking for George, just to yell at him.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So Rosie saves the day. She goes through time, and again, she has a lot. She has a lot of love for the Jetsons. I always respected that. She's very much like a robotic Alfred in that regard. She loves that family, man. Yeah,
Yeah, she really is kind of like the Alfred of the family.
unequivocally, yes.
Uh-huh.
All right, let's see. So here's the thing. So Rosie, she goes back in time after a little pit stop in medieval times for a bit because we have to stretch out our runtime. We can't just ever get it on the first stretch. But speaking of
Honestly,
stretch,
Dragon, I don't mind that because, like, with time travel stories, I always like when we do, like, oh shit, we ended up in this wrong time period. Oh no.
yeah.
Like, I was kind of disappointed that the Back to the Future movies never really did that. It's just like a quick aside.
I mean, yeah. Well, again, the ultimate wrong destination was the Old West, though, so we kind of had that.
I guess, but that destination was fucking boring.
Oh, come on! It was not that bad.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, wouldn't it have been cool if, like, on the way to a destination, they ended up, like, facing the T-Rex from the ride or something?
Of course, that'd be great, but clearly they needed something for the ride, though. They had
Yeah,
story to
that's
tell.
fair.
Plus,
I
they had
mean,
the
what's funny is that I feel like that ride, it's like, we're in an era where it's like, I don't think that a theme park would create a creature like that didn't appear in the movies just for a ride.
Well, also you got to remember they were pigeonholed with Jennifer in the car. That's the main reason we don't have the room for the pit stops and everything because we have Jennifer in the future because we have to go to the future because of the ending. Anyway,
Give her a heart attack with the T-Rex and kill her off. There you go.
are you referencing the Biff thing with that?
No.
I would have been really proud of you if you did.
All right. Anyways.
Okay, so back on topic. So then we have a forced climax where we kind of tie a bow on things. Here we're like, hey, Centro, the robotic dog of Cogswell, has stolen the idea of like, hey, I can make a bundle off of the Flintstones car
Uh-huh.
because it's wonderful. Seriously, such a beautiful vehicle. We have an we point out the whole Fred Barney thing. We do have a really nice reunion of the two when they patch things up. They're tell me this wasn't a beautiful.
That's the thing, Dragon. It's like they always have fallouts, but they also always have really sweet reunions. It's just kind of par for the course.
I forgot how beautiful this reunion was, though, Tiki, where he says, "Well, what are friends for? Sometimes friends are for hugging. That's what's for."
Oh my god! That was almost like a little too cheesy for me, but like I gave it a pat.
It's like so rarely does he treat him nicely.
It was very nice, Dragon. It was a very nice gesture.
Yeah. So, anyways, of course,
so nice. I thought it was maybe a little out of character, but whatever.
Yeah, well, again, we saw Fred gonna have his beautifully out of character moments, like the man called Flintstone, the contemplative Fred Flintstone. I love it when it's nice to give him some. Anyway, so the Flintstones car does save the day for everything with the nostalgia line. We had like the Humphrey Bogart sprockets, Bumgart's sprockets, because we had could say Humphrey Bogart. That just failed miserably, like the commemorative stamps. And anyway, so the Flintstones car bails him out. Fred and Barney get their jobs back. And here's the thing: Fred gets partner status, but we never address it ever again. Like, okay, so he's a partner.
I don't like that. I don't like the fact that the movie just kind of like ends on that, and we don't really see, like, we don't really see Fred even like doing anything with his partner status at all. It just kind of like, just fades off on the yabba dabba doo when they go back in time, and it's like. Okay, like that's a pretty big status quo shift.
Yep. I mean, what bothers me more is the BS reason we go back in time. That's the thing that really distracts me. Just the fact of like, wait, hold it. Okay, so the time machine is broken again because we can't just have it working for the end.
That's the thing that I do think we use the whole like, oh, the time machine is conveniently broken and unbroken. I don't know. I felt that was a little bit BS.
It's like, I'll give you the broken time machine earlier because we need that so we do the swap and everything. I'll give you that.
But the time machine keeps breaking, though. That's the problem.
And to be fair, like a kid built it, but still, what bothers me though is just the fact that, like, hey, it's nice that the car takes the Flintstones back, but it's just it's like a little prehistoric Back to the Future. Like, wait a minute, so the car is suddenly a time machine and it absorbed time fluid? That is unmitigated BS. You know,
Right.
it's a nice visual of them going back in the car, a little prehistoric Back
It
to the
is. It
Future.
is a nice
That's
visual.
I don't mind that, but it's like, really, we couldn't have come with a better reason. Like, oh God, it's just anyway. Yeah, it's a bit of a, not a sour note. It's just kind of like it's a fizzled out note to kind of end on. Like, okay, well, they're going
I
back, and
was
they
honestly kind of surprised when it just kind of cut to credits. I was like, oh, okay. Like I felt like there should have been at least some sort of wrap up in Bedrock, but whatever.
yeah, yep, and that's pretty much it.
Right. Let's see. So yeah, John Kelling does make the point that Bill and Ted do the stopover in the Middle Ages. Bill and Ted, honestly, like they do time travel. Like I like the way that they play around in time travel. Like they are a good example of that.
Yeah.
And then so with the junkie thing with Barney, John Kelling, I'm assuming that you're thinking that Fruity Pebbles are his addiction.
I assume so.
All right. So I think that's about it, Dragon. I'll go first on the final thoughts. I just I don't know. I feel like you and me are very much simpatico on this, where there are a lot of charming moments. You know, there's obviously you know, as a pop culture touchstone, this was a big deal. I remember this being advertised on Cartoon Network quite a lot. I also remember it being like prominent on the you know, in the kids section of my video store. So I remember this kind of being propped up as a big deal. And unfortunately, when I watched it as a kid, I did quite like it. And now I just think it's okay. You know, I think it's got some really good moments, some moments that hold it back. I think it's I don't think it's mediocre. I think it's more good than bad, but I'd only pretty much just call it good, not great. But it, you know, it's still very good. So
Yeah, I don't think I don't think the bits that don't work are like offensively bad or anything. They're just like, they kind of pale in comparison to the good stuff that's in this, which is kind of a shame. Where, yeah, it does, the good does that way. The bad is just kind of up front, which kind of distracts me.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, as John Kelling says, it's a cute crossover, not that much of a story, not bad, just okay.
Yeah, you know,
I think that pretty much sums it up. Yeah.
yeah, it delivers on what it promised, and that's about it. You know.
Uh-huh. I mean, it's certainly a better crossover than Courage the Cowardly Dog meets Scooby Doo.
I mean, right? I mean, infinitely better than that. So,
Oh,
you know.
sweet Jesus! All right.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right. So big thanks to John Kelling, that guy, and also Theme Park Priest for joining us in the comments. Love all you guys. Very much looking forward to following along with y'all as we go through these things. I think I'm really excited about this this theme month. It's very nostalgic to revisit these movies. And all right, folks. When the credits roll, that's our cue to run home and put the saber-toothed tiger out unsuccessfully until we meet again for the next mammoth marquee feature and have a yabba dabba do time.
Hooba dooba.